Welcome to Ask the Tech Coach, brought to you by the TeacherCast Educational Network. If you are in charge of professional development and looking to build an innovative digital learning experience, this is the podcast for you. Join us each week as we uncover strategies that tech coaches are using to drive their digital transformations one classroom at a time. And now for your host, with over 2 decades of experience working with tech coaches and ed tech companies from all around the world, Jeff Bradbury.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the TeacherCast Educational Network. My name is Jeff Bradbury. Thank you so much for joining us today and making TeacherCast your home for professional development. This is Ask the Tech Coach podcast, episode number 132. Today, we are asking, are you a tech coach champion? That's right. Today, we're going to be continuing our series covering the amazing manual, Coaching Matters, a fantastic book by our friends Jolene Killian, Chris Bryan, and Heather Clifton. We have been going through this book chapter by chapter. I hope you've had a chance to check out this stuff in our archives over at AskTheTechCoach.com. And we are looking forward to talking today all about coach champions. What is a coach champion? Are you a coach champion? And how does your district help set your coach champions up to be supportive of your coaches? I want to bring on my coach champion today, Miss Susan Vincent. Sue, how are you today? Welcome to the show.
I'm great. Rah, rah, rah. We're the champions.
I think it's something like that, right? I can hear the Freddie Mercury coming out every single time that I walk into a principal's office here. We talk about all that stuff.
Yeah, we need a background music.
Here we go. We are the champions. And now. And so we have been going through this book, Sue. And first of all, if you're looking for the book, you can head on over to teachercast.net/Coaching Matters. It doesn't take you to an Amazon site, but it does take you to the Learning Forward site. You can take it out, check it out. I highly recommend it. The book runs, $20 or so, something like that. I don't know the exact price, but highly recommend it. We've been going through this whole entire thing, and basically the first 4 chapters, to sum it up, are if your program is set up right, your coach has a fighting chance of having a successful coaching program themselves. Would you pretty much say that that's pretty much been the idea behind these last couple episodes?
Oh, yes, that's definitely the gist of it. Basically, if you have a fundamental program that you've built up step by step, you're going to be successful. And then as we segue into, our conversation for today, if you have those coaching champions there, you're going to be even more successful.
Now, today we're going to be taking a look at this chapter. I think it's important. And not only is it important, I think, for every school district to look at, but specifically from my role. My role here is as a lead digital learning coach for instructional technology or a lead instructional coach for digital learning, I should say that. And really, my role is different. And in fact, reading through this book and reading through this chapter, Sue, this chapter speaks 100% to the role I have, right? I am working with and are making great relations with all of our instructional coaches, but I'm not in an advisory role. I'm not in an evaluative role. Absolutely. But I do have the opportunity to work with administrators, principals, to help not only bring coaches into their buildings, help them, figure out as a building leader what their instructional coaches are supposed to be doing, but also my role is to work directly with upper leadership, our senior leadership, to make sure that there is continuity here between all the different components of this. So I'm really interested in diving into this here. You, in your school district, I know you've got a few coaches. Do you have a coaching champion position? Who is in charge of the coaches to really support the program, set the program up? What does that look like?
For us in our private school system, it's pretty much our current supervisor, which is our assistant superintendent currently. We're part of the curriculum department, the curriculum team. So our assistant superintendent is the one who, outlines what we do, helps, get the plan together. And then she is definitely a huge proponent of what we do and getting our teachers to understand what we do. So, can we maybe backtrack just a bit, Jeff, and let me pose this question. tell us exactly what we're meaning here for the listeners of what do we really mean by a coaching champion?
Sure. And I think it's best to define that here. We've been talking for the last couple weeks about what a successful program looks like. And if you're out here listening, perhaps you are in a program that's doing well. Perhaps you're the only tech coach in your district. In my previous school district, I was brought in a K-12 building, K-12 district, 6 buildings, 6 principals, all that good stuff, specifically to start a program. And I'm learning a lot about my previous position by reading this book, and I'm seeing what worked. I'm seeing what didn't work. I'm learning why it didn't work and what things could have happened in the past to make it be working. Essentially, when they're looking here at the word coaching champion, they're looking for somebody in the district who is, number one, an advocate for coaches, somebody who's going to be at the meetings and say, you know what, I see where your goals are. Perhaps the coach can help this, or perhaps through coaching, it can do this. They also go in and say that a coaching champion ensures that the program is effectively implemented. And I take that into a couple of senses. I take that as to, Sue, you are the coach. Your role is to be in the classrooms coaching teachers. Your job is not to change light bulbs. Sue, I know we're doing standardized testing, and given the option of pulling you from coaching and giving you a duty, you're still more valuable to us in the classroom. So my job as the champion is to make sure that you are doing the thing that you do best when we need you the most. It also says that the coach champion ensures that the conditions for effective coaching are recognized and implemented at all levels, meaning making sure that not only do we have a vision, but the principals share in that vision. The teachers share in that vision. The projects that we do are sharing in that vision. In other words, we're not just pulling a coach to go make a video. We're pulling a coach to make a video because it's going to help them train or bring in a philosophy to our classrooms. And finally, it says here that the coach champion ensures that the coaches, and I love this one, have a significant opportunity on their own for coaching and ongoing support. So they're the ones that are saying, Sue, you really should go to ISTE. You really should be a member of this group. You guys really do need the time out of the classrooms to go meet. I'm going to make sure that you guys have your professional development, because if you guys aren't growing, we can't grow as a district. And the thing here that I love, and this is like the last section of the first introduction here, but it says, coaches may be talented and amazing educators, but without the right support and optimal conditions, the overall impact of the coaching program will suffer. And I love that. And I look back at where I used to be and I go, okay, we didn't have one of those. That's why it didn't work. In my current district, we have one of those. We've actually got a few of those, and I feel like I'm one of them in our district. It's all set up to work with our senior leadership, our principal leadership, and our teacher leadership to make sure that they understand what we are as coaches, how we are working, how the program is being set up, and most importantly, how it's not being set up.
Absolutely. That's so huge there. Just I love that word, an advocate for the coaches, how that champion, whoever it may be in the leadership area, is an advocate for the coaches. They're the one out there who's carrying out all of these things that we've talked about before in encouraging the principal to encourage the teachers to use you, or encouraging the teachers directly to use you in their classroom.
Absolutely. And so when we look at who are these people, not every district has to have one, but every district really does need one. They say that a coaching champion is somebody who is in central office, who's an administrator, but doesn't have to be. For instance, in my particular position, I don't have the title of admin, although I do work in central office mainly, and I travel around to the different buildings and arms of our districts and stuff. But it is somebody who is going to have the responsibility for somewhat of how the program is running, how a coach is going to go, how it's going to move around. In my district, I'll say we have 3 coaching champions. It's myself. We have a coordinator of digital learning. We work together. share the same office space. And then above us, we have our chief, our boss. And all three of us are out there at our various levels. Our chief works with our central office staff, works with our senior management, our coordinator works with the leadership team and works with all the principals. And my role is to help kind of manage those levels. But at the same time, I'm helping the coaches do what they need to do as we're doing this. And we've only been doing it it's March, 3 months, right? Like we're still learning. We're still trying to grow. But I love that we're setting up an environment where every single level has a coaching champion that's going to advocate for not only coaches, but the fact that because we're coaches, because we're here, it's going to help student achievement and it's going to rise student. Yeah, it's going to help student learning. Yes, definitely. And, I feel like we're a bit kindred in that realm. I have a smaller team around me, but like I was mentioning, my supervisor, who is the assistant superintendent, is our coaching champion for my co-tech coach and I, as well as 2 instructional coaches. And she is a huge advocate for us. But then I feel like in turn, I inherit some of those coaching champion duties because my coworker came in. I had been a tech coach for years and she had not. So then I got to inherit those champion duties and be able to be a mentor or a champion to her to show her the ropes and encourage the teachers in turn. Hey, Shanda here knows what she's doing. She's awesome. Bring her into your classroom because she is going to be an awesome help in XYZ. So I feel like I've been able to inherit that. And, as many of you out there listening to Jeff, however long he's been doing Ask the Tech Coach for 132 episodes, and as I've joined him, it's been a huge honor to be able to be a champion to you listeners out there, as we take this globally, just outside of our own school districts. One of the things that I love about the way that this book sets up this term coaching champions is it really dives into the fact that a coaching department is there to help out with district initiatives. And it specifically starts talking about the coaching champion is the one that is often brought in to help the district develop those plans. We want to move into a student-friendly model. We want to move into SAMR. We want to move into, a different digital learning. That's where your coaches will shine, but that's where your coaching champion shines. Here's what a tech coach can do. Here's how we can work it. Here's the game plan. I get used an awful lot, and I love this. I get used an awful lot as a project manager. Here's the thing that we need to do. Here's the vision. Here's where we want to be in a month, in 2 years, and 6, whatever it happens to be. I love that as a coaching champion, we get a chance to sit there and really break down what the goals are of the district, what the vision is of leadership. And then we get a chance to sit down and discuss this and figure out how do we want to go? How do we want to get there? And how do we want to solve, this Rubik's Cube that is student achievement? Yeah. So, Jeff, I know you've talked a lot about, the different projects. I know you've worked a lot with your district on this website initiative. So that's where the coach and champion role, project manager role is really coming to play in your world, right? It is. We're launching a new website. Extremely proud of it. It looks fantastic, if I might say so myself. But really, it's the next phase of everything. We're creating a new digital learning department. That's awesome. We've got that set. We're moving forward with it. We are creating a pathway to develop what we want our classrooms to look like. Do we want to use the 4 C's, the 5 C's, the 7 C's, the 9, whatever, however many C's there are these days? How do we get there? What's the training process? What's the coaching process? All of those things look, how do those things look? That's what I'm excited about. Far beyond the website projects and the little things that we do here as a district. It's what can we do to create a impactful learning environment, an engaging learning environment for our students? Are we going to be bringing in a Google app or a Microsoft app or a video app or all of those things? And then, of course, how do our coaches fit into making sure that these things are showing up in our classrooms? That's what really gets me up every day.
Oh, yeah. And you're actually doing a lot mentoring new coaches and sending them out to the buildings in your role.
I love it. We have a fantastic team, and we've got new coaches, we've got veteran coaches, we've got somebody, we've got something for everybody. I love the team that we've put together. I'm not just saying that, but I really do think that we've made a really, really nice team here. And I think any district needs to have that. You can't get 5 Susans in a room and have a coaching program. You can't get 5 Jeffs in a room to get a coaching program. You have to figure out that you need a first baseman and a third baseman, and one's a righty and one's a lefty. You got to make sure you have all that stuff. So let's talk a little bit about the primary responsibilities that they talk about here. Because really, it's been funny going through this chapter, and I read through this chapter 3 or 4 times as we were preparing for this, because I'm looking at what it is and I'm kind of reflecting on what I do naturally, what the district's asking me for. It says here that a coaching champion has multiple responsibilities. I'll go down the list and then we can discuss here, but making sure that the program has focused goals, making sure you've got strong infrastructure, making sure that you have delineated roles, strong responsibilities. Everybody knows where they have to be. And then I think the last one's the most important: expectations. Because it's easy, I think, for any coach to come into a position, run into the classroom and go. That's like base 1, right? Like in classroom, working with teachers. If we jump back a couple weeks to chapter 3, like being helpful in the class is one thing. Knowing that when you're in the class, your job is to move the program forward, move the teacher forward.
Yes.
That's some higher level stuff.
That's what I was just thinking, carrying out the vision of the school itself or the whole district in general.
Right. Do I want to use Screencastify or do I want to use WeVideo, right? Like this is a conversation that I have with myself, and they both do the same thing. They can both make a video tutorial, but why would I push them on a certain application? Well, because that application also does X, Y, and Z, and I can bring that into the classroom, and now we can create higher level thinking, higher level skills on that. So let's kind of go over that one. Why is it important that a coaching program has focused goals?
Well, you're not going to be successful if you don't have a goal. There's not going to be really any kind of end if you don't have a goal in mind. You have to, have that established, whether that's with your supervisor or just with your teammates. We have to have something to shoot for and not just wander in, like Jeff said, wander in that classroom and hit the ground running. Because if we don't have something we're working for, you're going to fail eventually, or you're just going to fall on your face and not feel like you've accomplished anything.
And those goals are a lot of things, right? Those goals are your district goals. Those goals are your department goals. Those goals are your own coaching champions goals. If a teacher says, I want to learn how to make a video, well, in the back of your mind, you might be saying to yourself, no, this teacher doesn't know how to make tutorials. This teacher doesn't know how to make small projects to put video in like a Google slide. How can I help this teacher's immediate needs while also forwarding our district goals? Let's talk about the second one here, strong infrastructure. I think I might be thinking about this slightly different than you might be thinking about it. So when you hear strong infrastructure, what does that mean?
Well, when I hear infrastructure, I think about the hardware involved and things in place to carry out our instructional goals. We talk a lot about, my husband is a hardware guy and I'm the software person because I teach the people how to use the thing in hand. So, having those things in place is huge for successful teaching in general. We can't be a successful coach if the infrastructure is not in place, and we can't coach the teachers and make sure that they're successful if the infrastructure is not in place effectively.
So yeah, I'm with you on about 75% of that, because when I see strong infrastructure, I go back to we're making teams. We're building teams. We're building intranet sites. We're building websites. We're putting a OneNote together, for instance, of all the different ed tech things and all the videos. Making sure they have the support. Like exactly what you're looking at. But I kind of was taking that one a little bit personal. Of let's make sure that when somebody goes out and they sit down next to a teacher and that teacher asks a question, they can pull out their briefcase and go, look, here's a bunch of examples of what you're looking to do. Delineate it. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Back to the infrastructure. This is also where it's important to have your IT department as hopefully one of those coaching champions.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so lucky to be in that situation also, because I get to kind of help be the liaison between my curriculum team and the IT department. And our IT director is such a coaching champion. I would definitely label him that way. He was in the interview process in hiring me and has always been a huge supporter. And, I can go to him and ask for, I need this, this, and this to make XYZ work. And he's willing to talk about it and entertain ideas.
Now, the next one here kind of all goes together. Delineated roles and responsibilities. What could that mean? Well, and it could also kind of go with expectations. You need to have things in place and know what your role is. And it's important to work together, work as a team, but then you don't want to step on somebody else's toes and you want to do your job, kind of like the whole phrase, stay in your lane. We want to collaborate, but then we don't want someone else trying to do our job and not be doing it effectively. What's your take on that one, Jeff? One of the things that I like about my particular group and putting things together is that we do have people who are, I don't want to say specialists, that's not the right term, but they're very, very good in certain areas. And so knowing that somebody's very good at, let's say, video, if a principal is asking about video, I know to pull that person. Doesn't mean that the other people aren't going to be welcome into the conversation, brought in, learning situations, mentorships, etc. But, if we need somebody who's really good at secondary education, we can pull somebody. If we have somebody who's got a question about pre-K elementary, we can pull somebody in there. I love the fact that everybody kind of has their lane and you pull from those strengths, but at the same time, you adjust to the strengths of others. So, later in the chapter, they talk about the fact that a coaching champion, one of their primary responsibilities as new coaches come into the district is to assign mentorships. And so knowing that Sue has these strengths and Jeff doesn't, let's put these two people together for this particular project. So that way they can learn together and learn from each other. And then ultimately you're strengthening the core. So making sure that, you have your lanes, making sure you know your role in the district and in the group, but you're also comfortable enough to share and be vulnerable enough to take. Those are all things as we go through, that's family building 101, isn't it? Obviously not be offended when someone else knows more about something than you do. Consider that a teachable moment for yourself and accountability and guidance there. Exactly. And then, of course, the last one here is setting those expectations. I think that kind of goes without, without anything else here is everybody needs to know what we're going for. We're doing this together. We're doing this separately. We're, whatever it is, have those expectations, and those expectations can come from each other. I expect that you're working with me on this, or it can come from the top. Over the next month, here's the expectation for the group. This is where we want to go and how we want to get there. One of the other things that they mention in the chapter is it's they mention it a lot, actually, all about creating relationships. And that's one of those things that I think about a lot. Every single day I'm out working with one of our coaches, multiple coaches, having teams meetings. Hey, how you doing? I try to have at least one. I will never do this, but I try to at least have one meeting with every. Let me back up on that one. I try to have at least one conversation a week that has nothing to do with coaching with everybody. Yes. How's your family? How's life? What's new? What's your favorite TV show? Whatever it is, just something that humanizes the conversation. Because when you're in a relationship like this, when you're in a family situation, it can't all be business. No, not at all. We have talked about that so much, and it just keeps driving home. And as we go through this book all together, it's relationship building, and then that will come out in your collaborative efforts professionally. So We'd love to hear what you guys think about this. Are you a coaching champion? Are you trying to be a coaching champion? Do you need help becoming a coaching champion? We, of course, have a great program for you guys. You can join us each and every Wednesday night at 8:30 Eastern for our Tech Coach Roundtable. We've got almost 300 tech coaches in our Tech Coaches Network right now. You can join up for free over at teachercast.net/TCN form for Tech Coach Network form. And of course, you'll be able to check out all the great stuff over there. Interact with coaches from around the continent. We would love to have you there. It's truly become an international experience as we're now getting more people from outside of the United States joining us. So we want to say thank you so much for not only checking out this podcast, sharing it with your friends, sharing it with your colleagues, and of course, joining us for our Tech Coaches Network. We just celebrated 1 year of doing this, and I'm really excited for the future. We've got tons of resources, tons of things for free, and it's all there for you guys. Check it out, teachercast.net/TCN form. Now, so one of the things that they talk a lot about here in the book is a partnership agreement. I didn't know what this was until I read through it and realized, oh, we kind of already do that. A partnership agreement basically is a relationship, that talks about how things are going to be. In other words, my partnership agreement with the principal is going to be, here's what your expectations are, here's what my expectations are. Let's move forward with all of this stuff. And as a champion, I might have a meeting with your principal and say, okay, Sue's going to come in. Here's what you're looking for. Here's what she's looking for. Here's what we're looking for as a district. Let's figure out how to meet in the middle and move things forward. It really is those conversations, those partnerships, if you will, between more than one staff member that is going to set the tone for what's expected of the coach in the building.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That's where those background behind the scenes conversations happen before the coach ever goes out and meets the teachers. You know, what are we doing here?
It sets the tone. It sets the role, right? It stops one principal from treating you like a outsider, one principal from treating you like the guy that changes the light bulb, and one principal who says, no, please take my teachers. They need help. Go do this. And totally allowing the coaching process to work. It really is that thing that helps be successful, you know. And I know you said behind the scenes, and it is. I mean, teachers don't necessarily see these things happening, but I also find it's important to have these things out in the open. You need to know what the conversations are. You need to know that your upper is having these conversations with the principals, and there is some kind of a mutual thing. If not, you're kind of walking in every day kind of skeptical about who's talking about you, I think.
Oh, definitely. Perfect point. And, you know, in these conversations between the coaching champion and the principals or whoever, administration, you know, Jeff, is that just a one-time conversation, or sometimes do they just need to be ongoing? Because
it's one time. Just once.
Or do they need to be reminded throughout the year?
Nope, just once. Oh, in September, and you never have to speak again.
I don't know. Do they need to be reminded? Because, you know, sometimes they forget. Oh, here's Susan over here. Don't forget. She can come and help your teachers.
No, they recommend weekly, actually. There's a lot of different things here to make sure. And I think in saying what we just said, there is a difference between knowing someone's talking about you and knowing someone's talking about you, right? I want my boss to go out and say, Jeff is awesome. You should check this out. Yeah. But I don't want people talking about me, right? Like there's a difference in all that stuff.
Absolutely. I see what you're saying now, definitely.
And it's important that we know that we have people sticking up for us, but we don't want to know that people are discussing our business and discussing us. So I think there is an interesting point there. Again, it goes back to relationships. Again, it goes into conversations, trust, all those different things here. It is interesting to notice that in this book, it talks about the fact that the coaching champion helps coaches learn how to collect, manipulate, and understand data. I'm curious, Sue, about your thoughts on this topic. We have this conversation often during our Tech Coach Roundtables. Let's talk about data. Do you collect data on your teachers? You don't have to go into details, but yes or no. Do you collect data on your teachers?
Not officially on paper, in my head, probably I do.
So at the end of the year, if your upper says, "Hey, Sue, tell me about your year," do you say, "Well, look at my calendar"? Do you say, "Look at my spreadsheet"? Do you say, "It was good"?
For me personally, I would more say, yeah, look at my calendar and then be able to verbally back up what is on my calendar. I mean, I guess that's just more how I roll as a tech coach and a person, because I can't write everything down that I do in a day, much less keep up with a whole year's worth of everything that I've done in a day.
The book talks about collecting data, and they give you 4 specific things here. And I want to go back to my previous employment here for a second, but the book mentions tech coaches should be keeping data on who they worked with, how much time was spent, what task was accomplished, and what topics were addressed. And I think those are interesting to break down here. In my previous district, I went my first year and I thought I was awesome. And then I got to my end of the year meeting and they said, "So where's your spreadsheet with all your data?" And I said, "My what?" I didn't have a coach champion to help me out with these things. I was making it up as I go along, right?
Right.
I quickly created some data, and I created a monster Google form, which was like 30 pages of different things where I could tell you who you are, what subject you were in, what grade level, how long you were with, what was the topic, what was the app we were using. I had an algorithm in the middle of it. So that way, by the time the second year roll around, I said, "Sue, I had 735 different touches with 3,200 different employees and And then they said the question like, "Well, were those conversations about the how? Or were there conversations about the what?" And they said, "Oh, you never asked me that one." So after doing a second year of data collecting, it was, "Oh, I still haven't given you what you're looking for." And I think this goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Set the rules, set the expectations,
Yes.
tell me exactly give me where the bar is and I will hit it. But if you make up the bar when we're having the conversation at the end of the year, I'm never going to be successful.
That is huge. Yes.
So is it important to have a list or a graph of teachers who you worked with?
I mean, yeah, that. And now how you do it, I don't know. Some of you out there may disagree with what I would say, and Jeff and I may disagree about how I would do it. I mean, as a tech coach, we can't just write everything down that we do. Now, I'm very meticulous about keeping my calendar and when I meet with teachers, but
you don't. But
keep a log of everything I do.
Right.
I have the topic in my calendar, and now my memory, thank goodness, so far in my aging process here, is still pretty sharp. So I tend to remember what I've done with teachers. So I'm one of those who can verbally express myself on what I've done and accomplished, but I just can't write everything down all the time.
But if everything's in your calendar and you walk down the hallway and 5 teachers grab your arm, you're not putting that in your calendar, are you?
No.
So
that's still in my head, yes.
So, okay, time spent. When I was building my monster calendar, I had it broken down, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, and 45 in an hour. Basically, it was this a quick thing, or am I spending the day with you, or spending the period with you?
Right.
So that way we could figure out, okay, I've worked with Sue 16 times, but for no more than 5 minutes on average, which means I'm not in Sue's class, but she's always asking these little things of me. So in other words, it's busy work, not job description work, if you will.
Right. In a former district where I was previously, we tried this for, I think, a year or so, and where every time we met with a teacher, we sent them a Google form to fill out, but teachers don't have time for all that either.
No, so. And we tried that one too. Sue, thanks for your time today. Can you please fill this out? Well, I don't need a cookie every time we work together.
Exactly.
Right. Task accomplished. Right. I don't even know what that means, other than I know that I keep a record, the best that I can, on projects I've done. I make a video for the district. I save it onto a Google Doc. I work with you on a project. I keep a link. But I'm doing that so that way the next teacher that I come to, I can quickly find it.
Absolutely.
And that could be a Google site. That could even be ready, Sue? A Wakelet. You can do a lot of those different things in here. Topic addressed. What could that be? That could be, hey, we worked on STEM exploration. We worked on early explorers. We worked on the French and Indian War or something like that, right? And
right.
What does that give you at the end of the year? Hey, I did the French and Indian War once.
How does that affect your tech coach?
How does that affect my future with the district and all those other things, right? So exactly. I do think that it's worth for coaches to have some kind of dashboard, right? Some kind of a metric, some kind of information. That's something that I think about a lot. I don't think that anybody ever needs to go as crazy as I did with my data forms, although they were interesting to look at. I mean, at the end of the year, I could say that Sue and I had 32 touches and we talked about these 3 apps, and Sue, because of that, is now doing things on her own using these apps. Look, I'm a good boy, right? You can go through all those different things.
Right.
I don't know. I'd love to hear your opinion out there as you're listening to this show.
Yes.
But I don't, and even for this year for myself, I created something that was like a form, but not as crazy. I can't keep up with it. I have no idea turning around what I did yesterday because there was 1,000 things in 1,000 different places.
And some of you have the mindset for that. Like I personally, and I think I've said this before, I just do not have a data mind. What I do is in my head, and I'm happy to share it with you. But keeping those stats from day to day, thank goodness I have an awesome coworker for when we need data help.
2 more things that they mentioned here is basically the role and the primary responsibilities here. They mentioned that a coach champion serves as a second set of eyes in the coaching room. It says here, usually a coach's champion can be more objective due to things. Basically you need somebody to go to that isn't your boss. You need somebody to go to that isn't fully observing you. You need somebody you can go to who you can talk to without feeling the repercussions. I think that coaching programs are created best when the principal is not responsible for you. Right. I love that about the way that we're doing things. And I think that's important because you need to be able to go to that principal and say, what do you think? I don't know. Can you help me? Without feeling the pressure of this is the person who's observing you at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
So it's really important. I love the fact that I'm not in an observational role over anybody, but I do have those opportunities to make those relationships and have those conversations with people. So that way, if they do need, my door is open or like Teams is always on or something like that. And then finally, they mentioned here, one of the primary responsibilities is really, as we've mentioned it so many times here, to be an advocate for coaches. Going in and saying to the curriculum people, to the principal people, to the whoever, this is what a tech coach can be used for. You don't need to do these things. We have coaches that can help you out. We have coaches that can create these. We have coaches that are trained in helping you create your vision. Let's do this together. And they mentioned here this whole concept of having a growth mindset is, look, we can all grow together. Let's put our heads together and see what the future is going to hold.
Very much. So
the rest of the chapter here really does go into how do you define things? How do you make it? I really love the fact that it talks about what is defined as a coach's champion. It says a coach's champion needs to have interpersonal skills. Again, there's your relationships. Mm-hmm. They need to have the ability to manage a coaching program. And I think that's important. That's something that I take seriously every single day. How do we get our vision, our goal moved from point A to point B? They provide performance-based support to coaches in meetings or roles or responsibilities. Now, I love working with our coaches and helping them. So when they come to me and they say, I need help with, or I love being that. And I not only love doing that for our district, I love doing that in our roundtables. You know, even this past week, it's, hey, we're rolling out 3,000 Chromebooks. How do I do that and be in the classrooms at the same time? We had some really good conversations in our last coaches meeting about these different topics, right? And on top of that, a coaches champion needs to know how to facilitate effective learning focused meetings, which I read into that basically saying when you actually have the time to get together, get to the point, make it enjoyable, have a focus, have a goal oriented, and run with things.
Absolutely.
So what did you think about this chapter here? Because, I mean, there's a lot of things that they talk about here in the conclusion of it and kind of wrapping up things about who this is, where this is going. But what were your thoughts? What's your overall thought of coaching champions?
Well, for me, it was a little bit reaffirming that, first of all, as a tech coach myself, I have a coaching champion who advocates for me and encourages the principals to get me in the teachers' classrooms. But then also reaffirming to my own self, you know, I can be a champion for others, whether it be my closest coworker in my current job or as a member of our Tech Coaches Network in my state through our professional learning network and so on. So what stood out the most to you, Jeff?
I think that I learned a lot from this chapter about where I've been and some of the successes that I had in the past. And I also learned that some of the things that didn't go so well, again, a good coaching program is created by the success of the goals of the district. And when parameters are lost, things don't always go well. I think that's a safe way of putting things, right? I think overall, I know this is one of those chapters that I want to go back and read again. I might even go back and read it every month just because it is so personal to the role that I'm playing and the role that I'm trying to play for my colleagues and my coaches. It's always good to have a refresher for things. So, you know, even this recording might be when I go back and listen to our conversations and see things. But, you know, we want to hear from you guys. We want to know what you guys think about coaching champions. And, you know, our next chapter of this book, Coaching Matters, is going to be all about hiring coaches. Certainly a conversation that we've had on this show before, and I'm looking forward to having that conversation with you, Sue. I don't think we've done this kind of an episode before, but especially hearing it after reading this book. I do want to say thank you to everybody who caught my keynote this past weekend at the MeTech conference. We had an amazing presentation. We did our keynote on Saturday the 20th, and I thought that was great. We also had a chance this past weekend to present at the NCCE conference, and we want to thank our friends out in NCCE World for that. And if you're listening to this on a Monday or a Tuesday, this is still the week of Spring Q. And I highly recommend that you guys check out everything that's happening in Spring Q. Tomorrow, Tuesday, in fact, the 21st, we're going to be doing another Tech Coaches workshop all about branding, building your EDU brands for tech coaches, and also how to build an instructional technology plan and how to really put together a professional learning department and stuff like that. So lots of great things that we're looking forward to as we head into the year. Sue, what do you have going on this week?
Well, I'm looking forward to spring break coming up, but lots of good things happening over on techimaginations.net. My Tech Tip Tuesday this week, I was quite excited to share. Check out and go listen over there. My YouTube video is there on the citation tool in Google Docs. So that's kind of a newish tool. So go check out my video on how to incorporate that, where you can put the, in document citations as well as create the bibliography right inside of Google Docs nowadays.
There's a lot of great features coming out in both Google Land, Microsoft Land, and so many other great stuff. So don't forget to check out all the great stuff out on Twitter. We can follow the hashtag TechCoachEDU is where we're going to be posting everything here. And of course, hope you guys have a chance to subscribe to this and all of our other shows over on TeacherCast. Well, on behalf of Sue and everybody here in the TeacherCast Educational Network, thank you so much for joining us. My name is Jeff Bradbury, reminding you guys to keep up the great work in your classrooms and continue sharing your passions with your students.
You've been listening to Ask the Tech Coach, hosted by Jeff Bradbury of the TeacherCast Educational Network. Please reach out to the show with all of your questions on Twitter at AskTheTechCoach or online at www.askthetechcoach.com. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss any future episodes. And please take a moment to write a review in the App Store.